Welcome back to Tales Arcane. In this video I'm going to outline 5 methods for creating long-lasting D&D villains. Some of the best antagonists in D&D are those that the players go up against multiple times, with animosity between them building across the course of the campaign. But it can be hard to pull this off if the trigger-happy players kill those villains as soon as they first encounter them. So the 5 villain archetypes that I'll be outlining in this video are all designed to either avoid death for a while or come back after death. By the way, if you want to further support what I do here on the channel, you can back me over on my Patreon. When you subscribe to the Tales Arcane Patreon, you get access to more than 1,000 pages of my original D&D content, including travel encounters, adventures, campaign settings, battle maps, and a whole lot more. There's a link to my Patreon down below this video. But now, let's talk about long-lasting villains. In my opinion, one of the most interesting, long-lasting villain archetypes is the public figure. This is someone that the players know is a villain, and whose identity is public, but for various reasons the players cannot challenge them directly. For a classic example of a public figure villain, look no further than Professor Moriarty from the Sherlock Holmes short stories and novels. Sherlock Holmes, the hero, knows that his ultimate nemesis is Moriarty. He knows that Moriarty is the mastermind behind a huge criminal network, and Moriarty is not hard to find. He's a celebrated academic and he has a London address. But Moriarty has surrounded himself with enough plausible deniability and social influence that Sherlock Holmes cannot move against him. Holmes knows he's the villain, and he knows Holmes knows. But there's nothing Sherlock Holmes and Watson can do until the very end of the story. Introduce a villain with whom direct confrontation is clearly a bad idea. They're always surrounded by robust security protocols. Maybe they're protected by the law. Then make them a celebrated, powerful figure in the society in which the players are nested. Maybe this is a wealthy merchant or a noble with ties to the royal family. You want the players to get this sense early on that even if they can kind of point accusing fingers at this person, no one's going to believe them. With a public figure villain, you want the players to know their identity pretty early on, because again, they're not going to be able to confront them right away. So maybe after encountering a couple of challenges and minor villains who hint at that higher mastermind power pulling the strings, the players then get confirmation of it. They meet a witness who confirms that this all traces back to this one public figure. But soon afterwards, that witness is going to disappear, maybe turn up floating in the local river. The bit I love about a public figure villain is that you can have your players come face to face with them long before open conflict is really an option. Maybe the players succeed in saving a town from a dragon, so they're invited to a state banquet to celebrate them, and at that banquet they meet a number of nobles, including someone who they know for a fact was actually the person who was in cahoots with the dragon the whole time. They can't prove it, but the villain knows that they know, and so all the conversations between them and that public figure have this sort of verbal sparring undertone as they look at this person and say, one day it will be you we're going up against, not your proxies. Eventually, your players will get the evidence they need to finally bring this person down, or they'll gain so much influence themselves that they can, even without sufficient proof, move against that villain and not have anyone stand in their way. And when that moment comes, when the players are finally able to draw swords against this person who's been taunting them from afar this whole time, it'll be delicious. The escape artist is the villain who slips away just as the players are getting the upper hand. Maybe they have a flying mount waiting in the wings, a griffin that they can jump onto and escape. Maybe they use magic, teleporting or jumping to another plane. They often have minions who can get in the way of the players while they make a break for it. Now you need to handle this kind of villain with care, because if run badly, they can be quite annoying for players to interact with. The number one rule for a good escape artist villain is that the methods of their escape must be fair and logical within A, the rules of the game, and B, the rules of your world. If your villain is going to use magic to escape, maybe they're going to teleport or cast plane shift, and one of your players has a reaction and cast counterspell against that, you can't just say, oh, well, actually, you cast Counterspell too slowly and they got away. No, they have a reaction, and within the rules of the game, they can potentially stop that escape from happening. Likewise, if your world is a low magic setting with almost no magic items, you can't just give that villain winged boots because it suits you to have them escape. That wouldn't be consistent with the rules you've laid down for the world the players are in. A good escape artist actually has to be smart and well prepared. Maybe they have a group of doppelgangers that follow them everywhere and take on their appearance, giving them a chance to escape. Maybe they have a secret passage, and you mentioned that during the fight they always stay in one particular area of the battlefield, hinting that they know where the lever is they need to pull to open the secret passage. It has to be somewhat fair and consistent within your world. The second rule of a good escape artist villain is don't overdo it. If your players keep encountering this villain and the villain keeps getting away, no matter how fair and logical their methods of escape are, it's going to start to feel frustrating for the players to have the payoff constantly postponed. This is something you maybe want to do 2 or 3 times at most. I also like to introduce a clear solution for the players to grasp onto if the villain keeps getting away. For example, if they encounter a villain who manages to teleport away at the end of the battle, they might soon after learn of some dimensional shackles that are held in a particular treasure vault, and after going on a dangerous quest they can get the shackles, evening their odds for the next time they go up against that teleporting villain. Liches, Draco-Liches, Spirit Naga, Death Knights. There are loads of monsters in D&D that just won't stay dead. And if handled properly, resurrected villains can make great long-term antagonists. There's a couple of reasons I really like this option. Reason 1, when you've established that an enemy is going to keep coming back every time the players take them down, it encourages the players to seek out long-term solutions to deal with the enemy. It's a kind of puzzle-solving situation. We've got a Death Knight coming after us, and we keep barely surviving these encounters. Sooner or later, it's going to overpower us. So we need to research this Death Knight, find out why its oath was broken, and try to fulfill its oath to put it to rest before it catches up with us one final time and takes us out. The Draco-Lich keeps coming back. We need to find and destroy its phylactery, or we need to cut off its supply of dragon carcasses, which it seems to be able to source to keep giving itself a body to regenerate into. This just adds a great new quest idea. The players are being pursued by an undying force that they can kind of beat back, but it keeps on chasing them down, and while they're being pursued, they're racing to find a solution to finally bring an end to the challenge. The second thing I love about resurrected villains is that they can learn and evolve, and every time they come back, they can do so with new abilities to use against the players. If, for example, an enemy is taken out by a fireball from a wizard, you can be absolutely certain they're coming back with armor of fire resistance and a plan to deal with that wizard as soon as battle begins. A great example of a relentless, undying enemy who keeps on coming back from the dead for more can be found in one of my favourite graphic novels, Hellboy: Darkness Calls. In this book we find our hero Hellboy being pursued by Koschei the Deathless, an undying, supernatural Russian warrior who is being driven by a powerful witch to kill Hellboy. Every time Koschei is killed, he comes back bigger and physically stronger than he was before. But what's really interesting is that he doesn't want to be doing this. He just wants to die and have peace, but Baba Yaga, the witch that owns his soul and hates Hellboy, won't let him go down until he takes Hellboy down. And so we have a genuinely empathetic character who we can see is suffering, but who also doesn't have a choice other than to throw themselves at our hero. And this means that trying to defeat Koschei permanently is not only a victory for our hero, but it could also be a victory for Koschei. It's an act of mercy. I bring this up because it illustrates how poignant and interesting and nuanced the storytelling possibilities are when you have a relentlessly resurrected character, especially something like a Death Knight, where they probably don't want to be here, but they just can't break the cycle that they're trapped in, so they keep coming back for more, and your players, by defeating them, will also be freeing them. Now I want to cover 2 more long-term villain archetypes, the Hidden Puppet Master and the Possessed. But first, I have a sponsor. I play a lot of music and sound effects at my D&D table to build immersion, and that's why I use Describe. Most people know Describe as a source of TTRPG flavor text, and while it does come with a library of more than 10,000 pieces of pre-written text, the thing I love about Describe is the Opus feature. Describe's Opus platform is a way to source, organize, and play TTRPG music, sound effects, and ambience. The audio collection is massive and includes everything from specific spell sounds and goblin war cries to the music and ambience of elven taverns and beyond. During prep, I can build custom soundboards for different scenes and locations, and then on the night I can layer and level all those different sounds together. Sometimes I have to look things up on the spot. The other day my players took a very unexpected ride in a dwarven helicopter, which I hadn't planned for, but because Opus is so well laid out, I was able to almost instantly get helicopter sounds, and my players thought it was all part of the plan. If you want to try Describe and Opus for yourself, you can get an extended free trial by heading to the link below this video and using the coupon code TalesArcane, all capital letters, all one word. In the meantime, let's get on with the video. The hidden puppet master operates in a similar way to the public figure, in that their influence is felt in the players' lives long before the players have a chance to directly confront them. But unlike the public figure, the hidden puppet master's identity is unknown, and that's what stops the players from confronting them. It's not a lack of evidence or access, it's a lack of information. Hidden puppet masters can be hard to pull off, because you need to make their influence very present in the story without them being physically present in the story. And I think we can learn a lot from a great example of a hidden puppet master from one of my favourite TV shows and an absolute guilty pleasure of mine, The Mentalist. It's a police procedural, and right from the start of the show we're introduced to our main antagonist, Red John, a serial killer whose true identity we won't find out for the vast majority of the TV show. Despite that, we get a really strong sense of Red John's presence and personality right from the get-go, thanks to two things. First, he has a distinctive symbol, a smiley face painted in blood. Whenever we see that, we know that Red John has been active in the area very recently, and so we have a physical thing we can latch onto. It helps even more that it's a face, which gives us a sense that we're looking at Red John every time we see his symbol. And you can do this very easily. For example, you could have all the Puppet Master's minions bear a very specific mark or branding on their bodies, and every time the players see that after a battle, they know that they've been up against the Puppet Master, even if the Puppet Master is nowhere in the area. The symbol can also tell us something about the Puppet Master's personality. The Red John smiley face is mocking. Every time we see it, it's like Red John is smiling at the heroes as they try and fail to catch him. We're getting to know about the personality of this person about 100 episodes or so before we get any hint of who they actually are. The second factor that defines Red John as a great Puppet Master villain, a thing we can learn about for our own Puppet Master villains, is the way people talk about him. Throughout the series, we encounter people who have met Red John, but for whatever reason are unable to identify him. And for example, we meet his obsessive followers, people who see him almost as a sort of religious figure. And what we learn from them is that Red John is not just physically dangerous, but mentally dangerous. He's so clever and manipulative that he can take normal people and turn them into essentially his thralls, willing to die for his strange causes. Again, we're getting this strong sense of a person who we're up against, even though we know next to nothing about them. Hidden puppet masters make great long-term villains because if run correctly, the players will get a sense of the villain's presence throughout the campaign long before they ever get a chance to enter combat with them. Finally, we have the Possessed. This is some kind of incorporeal threat, a dark power, an undead entity, a demonic entity that uses physical forms as a temporary vessel, leaping into someone's body, but only for a short time. This means that every time the players face this villain, they're likely to face a different physical form with different abilities, strengths, and weaknesses. Our possessing villain could be a body-hopping demon. It could be an eldritch god come through into the material plane in a physical vessel. It could be a vengeful undead spirit. All good options. And the thing that's great about this kind of villain is it introduces a real sense of paranoia into the campaign. The players meet different NPCs and all the time they're thinking, could this be the being that I defeated before come back in a new physical form? As with resurrected villains, possession introduces the idea that players have to find long-term solutions to a recurring problem. If every time they destroy the host, the power finds a new body and comes back for round 2, the players are going to have to work out how to first identify hosts and then how to contain and destroy the entity forever. In the first session of one of my campaigns, the players found themselves in a village where a body-hopping demon was loose. They managed to destroy the demon's host and save the village, but the demon escaped, and for the rest of that campaign, the players were always looking over their shoulder, waiting for the demon to come back for revenge. And that incentivized the players to start seeking out arcane and occult knowledge about demons, how to identify them, and how to permanently destroy them. It became a great long-running theme. I think recurring possessing villains is a good theme to have in any adventure, but you'll find it fits particularly well in dark, horror-themed adventures. If you're running something in Barovia, or in my own campaign setting of Withervale, which is kind of a horror-themed environment, it'll just work really well. And again, it really gets that sense of paranoia for the players, where they're constantly, every little strange village they go through, every strange NPC they encounter, they're looking at them, working out whether or not this person is their next antagonist. Anyway, that is the video. Thank you for watching. Good luck with all your villainous schemes to come. And if you do want to take advantage of that extended free trial on Describe, hit the link below this video, use that coupon code TalesArcane, all capital letters, all one word. If you want to back me over on Patreon, there's a link down below the video to that as well. I'll see you in the next video. Oh, and also, yeah, go read the Hellboy graphic novels. They're so good. Again, they're so much better than the movies. They're very dark and weird and beautiful and poignant, and the ones illustrated by Mike Mignola are fantastic, but the later ones aren't illustrated by him. I think they're Duncan Fegredo? Duncan something, I forget the name, but they're also a fantastic artist, so I would recommend them as well. Anyway, see you next time.